waiting? Go check out what they're selling. They still got some Japan jerseys and stuff. It can only be one. Who's gonna win? South Africa. Sean the Sheep has spoken.
Good morning and welcome to our Rugby World Cup update, brought to you live from London aboard our ABSA Red Bus. ABSA, a member of Barclays. There were 8 and now there are only 4, and effectively it's going to be a rugby championship to decide our world champion for 2015, with only the Southern Hemisphere nations participating and appearing in the last 4. What a weekend of rugby we have had, and what a week of preparation lies ahead for the remaining 4 teams. A very good morning to you. It's good to be in your company on this Monday morning. So South Africa and New Zealand booked their place in the last 4 in the semi-finals on Saturday. Let's take a look at the results from yesterday. Ireland being defeated by 23 points against Argentina, and the Scots, they came oh so close against Australia. It was a performance that many were not expecting, but the Scots were certainly very, very valiant, going down by just a single point to Australia. It really was a great weekend of sports for South Africa in particular when it comes to our national teams. We had Banyana qualifying for the Olympic Games. We had the Proteas making us proud against India in the 3rd one-day international. And then, of course, the Springboks making it through to the semi-finals. However, this week they will be counting the costs because there are some injury concerns. Let's check in with our camp correspondent Simon Burke to find out more.
So the dust has settled after this quarter-final victory against Wales, and the Boks do have some injury concerns. Bismarck du Plessis had his hand trodden upon by Francois Louw. However, the camp is confident he'll pass a medical. The bigger news is that Lood de Jager suffered a pulled tendon in his foot, and there's more concern over his fitness ahead of the semi-final against New Zealand. Francois Louw says as well that the Boks need to work on plenty ahead of this match, particularly at the breakdown.
From the breakdown perspective, I think we're perhaps a little bit slow at getting in, especially on our attacking breakdown. We will speak about not reacting to the breakdown, but sort of preempting it. Not really what you want, especially in at this stage of the tournament. It can really be the difference between winning and losing.
Oftentimes in a World Cup, it's the semi-final before the final that acts as the showcase match for the tournament. In this respect, South Africa versus New Zealand could well be that. I'm Simon Burke, bringing you the latest from the Springbok camp.
And a lot of what happens in that semi-final will come down to which team has the better big match temperament. Speaking about big match temperament, didn't Australia show some massive BMT against Scotland? A valiant performance from them. However, there definitely were some favourable calls that went the Australians' way. Let's bring you up to speed with what's happening in the news, because that's a big one. Following Scotland's 1-point quarter-final defeat to Australia, the captain, Greg Laidlaw, questioned referee Craig Hubert's late penalty decision that allowed Australia to kick 3 points for the win. He said they go to the TMO for everything else these days, so why not go to the TMO for that? Former Scotland captain Gavin Hastings said, if I see the referee Craig Hubert again, I am going to tell him how disgusted I am. And then Freddie Michalak calls it a day on his international career. He's ended his international career after France went down 62-13 to New Zealand in their quarter-final. He said, it's sad, it's a sad end, but my body just can't respond anymore. All right, it's time now for us to take a quick break, but after the break we have my colleague Mac Messina, former Cat as well as a Springbok Sevens player, that will be discussing the semi-finals that we'll be waiting to see this coming weekend. That's coming your way after the break.
Well, Welcome to Network, a technology news program that also discusses what's trending in social media in and around Africa. MTN has launched its new movie and television streaming service, Front Row. If it's trending, we will find it. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
Watching our Rugby World Cup update brought to you from the ABSA Red Bus, ABSA, a member of Barclays. It's now a pleasure to welcome into our travelling studio once again, Mac Messina. Mac, thank you very much. Always like having you here in the early mornings to chat. Obviously, we've just had a wonderful weekend of a quarterfinal action. But going into the quarterfinals, I don't think we expected to see what we did see. But let's look at South Africa and New Zealand. That's going to be our first semi-final. After the way that we saw New Zealand play against France, some would say that it's going to be an easy road for the world champions into the final. Is it going to be?
No, it's not. It's not going to be a very easy game for the All Blacks team, just knowing very well that if you look at the way these two teams have been playing for the past couple of years, the South African team, the Springbok team, that's the only team that knows how to beat them. We've beaten them a couple of times. But then, however, if you look at the All Blacks, the momentum that they've showed, the form, the way they've just played, the way they've just scored those 60 points against France, it's a big worrying factor, because it looks like as if they are the team that is in a very, very high, just going all the way up. However, just you never know, as we saw, all the other games. When it comes to knockout time, games sometimes they tend to be very close.
Yeah, and also the things that you expected from looking at the performances in the pools, maybe come a knockout match, it's very different. Case in point, Australia. I mean, they looked like a sure finalist, or when seeing what they could do in the pools. However, against Scotland, you were questioning that. I mean, do you think Argentina will have taken something from that, taken some hope?
Yeah, they have. Our neighbours, that's one of the teams that have been getting better each and every time. I think one thing that is very evident in this World Cup is that, especially when you look at the quarterfinals, I was happy just to see almost all the teams scoring their 4 tries, 3 tries. The team that hasn't really scored too many tries in the quarterfinals, it's a South African team. Hence, maybe if you can go back, the Boks versus the New Zealand, perhaps maybe in order for the Boks to beat the New Zealand, we have to make sure that we score a lot of tries. Because I don't think that the kicking game might work against them. Like Australia, they scored 4 tries in order for them just to win. Look at the Argentinian as well. I mean, just the way they played, they were creating stuff left, right and centre, and they scored brilliant tries, individual tries, running the ball and all that stuff. I think it's probably going to be needed just going forward. However, I just can't wait to see these 4 teams to just play really, because this is it. In the top 4 teams in the world for now, I think they deserve it.
All right, so that's when it's all going to get underway. Those 4 teams, they compete in the semi-finals in this coming weekend. You'll be able to watch South Africa up against New Zealand. The kickoff is going to be at 5 o'clock South African time, and you'll be able to watch it on SABC2 come Saturday. So put it in your diary. It's a date, you, me, and the rest of the rugby world come Saturday in the first semi-final here at the Rugby World Cup. It's all about keeping your eye on the ball in this week that leads up to the semi-finals. Speaking about balls, how about taking a look at how they make rugby balls at a place that they have been making balls since the very conception of the game, and that's in the town of Rugby.
The method of making rugby balls has come a long way since pig's bladders were used in the production of them. Leather ball maker Peter Prince at the Webb Ellis factory tells us more.
I learned from a guy called John Batchelor, who came here in 1948 and only left about a year or so ago. So he taught me all the ins and outs of it, and he taught me all the little tricks, because a lot of it is knacks and tricks more than skills. Keeping the threads tight while you're sewing, that's a really important part. Beating the seams down before you turn the ball, because otherwise the seams stick out on the ball afterwards. And then the hardest part is to actually turning the ball. That is a real technique that you have to learn. It takes me about 10 minutes to turn a ball. John Batchelor could do it in about 60 or 70 seconds, just completely naturally. He'd put it through. Okay, we'd grimace a little bit, but he wouldn't sweat and toil like I have to get it done. They are the only true rugby balls in the world, in my opinion, because they're the only balls that are actually made in rugby, the home of the game. So therefore the only ones that deserve to actually be called rugby balls. The 2 sections are then sewn together So you end up with the whole ball together inside out, and at the last minute you leave a small gap at the top and turn the ball through, and that, as I say, is probably the hardest bit of making the ball. Once the ball's been turned through, all the stitching ends up on the inside, so there's nothing to mark on the outside, and then you've finally put the bladder in. The bladder is now, of course, a pneumatic bladder and not a pig's bladder anymore. Then it's inflated and then laced, and that's the finished ball.
Now, we've certainly seen some very interesting things in the 10 different towns and cities that the ABSA Red Bus has visited. But sometimes, just sometimes, amongst all of the work and bringing you everything that we have been able to bring you from England, we get a little bit of time off.
What we've decided to do is to come out to an iconic part of London's landscape, and that is the London Eye. And we've brought the whole team that has been helping to make sure that you get to see all of our Rugby World Cup broadcasts. We brought them all along, so I'm going to introduce them to you. We've got Tommy, we've got Christine, we've got Melinda. Give us a wave, Melinda. Kutso, Martin, Zanele, Jimmy, Francois, Karina, and of course, Mackie. So this is the team that's been helping to bring all of our broadcasts to you, and today we're going to do something different. We're going to go on the London Eye, and you know, it's famously quoted, Sir Richard Rogers said that the London Eye to London is pretty much like what the Eiffel Tower is to France.
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a few things that really just took place. I think, well, for me, one of the things that really stand out, you remember the Fantastic Four guys, that woman that's holding that? Yeah, it all happened here. It all happened here.
All right, so come along with us, because each of the different pods, well, 20 of them at least, have been decorated in all of the Rugby World Cup competing teams. So we're going in the South African pod.
It's absolutely amazing to be here and to get this kind of perspective over the English capital of London. What I can see, and I know Matt's going to tell us what he can see in a short while, but what I can see, the Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, you can see Westminster Abbey, Westminster Bridge, which is the bridge that we actually walked across to get to the London Eye. I'll tell you a little bit about Westminster Abbey. That's the one that you can see there just behind Big Ben. It staged every coronation of English sovereigns since William the Conqueror was crowned on Christmas Day in 1066. It's the final resting place of 17 monarchs, and it was in this church that Princess Diana's funeral took place, and the marriage of her son, Prince William, to Kate Middleton back in 2011, which was a global story. These are just a couple of the things. I know that you can also, on a clear day, you can see all the way down to Buckingham Palace and St James's Park too, but it's just the most amazing view. Matt, what can you see on your side?
Well, I think there's Buckingham Palace from right up on top, but Martin here, my colleague, has been saying to me, Martin, you saw what? Soweto over there. Oh, Baba,
oh, this was awesome, man. Amazing. You too.
And who was the team member behind the camera? Well, that was none other than Richie Rich. And the team are on the move again with the ABSA Red Bus from the Richmond Rugby Club. We're going to be at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park for tomorrow morning's broadcast. Until then, have a brilliant Monday ahead. Goodbye.